Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you, wherever you are in the world. I am Tigris Osborne, and I'm the chair of NAAFA, the National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance. And welcome to today's episode of the NAAFA Webinar Series. We are very excited on this last day of National Poetry Month to welcome to our webinar 4 of the poets who were part of the Fat Poets Society. We're going to learn a little bit more about the origin of that group in just a minute. And we also have some special words from Frannie Zellman, who was the teacher that led to the formation of that group that we'll be sharing with you as well. But before we do that, just a couple of administrative notes. The NAAFA Webinar Series is made free and is made possible by the generous contributions of folks in Fat community and all of the Fat Positive folks who support our work. If you would like to contribute to NAAFA to help us continue to produce great programming like this, or to help us with the Campaign for Size Freedom, which is working to support the passage of legislation to prevent height and weight discrimination, we encourage you to give today or to become a recurring donor at our website at NAAFA/give. We also encourage you to sign up for our newsletter and follow us on social media. Our social media handle is NAAFA Official on most of your favorites. And it's a great way to stay in touch with us. You can sign up for our newsletter at our website. You can also check our event listings at our website to see the other things we have coming up. We are in the process of planning lots of spring and early summer events in anticipation of our annual Fat Liberation Month celebration in August. And I can tell you that on Sunday, May 7th, we will be hosting our springtime virtual brunch with special performances. Our special guest host, Matt Simcoe, and Danielle from Fashionably Famished will be back to teach you how to make some fun springtime snacks for your brunches. So please do sign up for that event. Keep an eye out for other events coming from us and sign the petition for size freedom, which you can find on our website, naafa.org. With no further ado, I would like to introduce you to some members of the Fat Poets Society. First, I'm going to introduce you to Frannie Zellman, who is here in the chat today, but will not be appearing on screen. But we're going to hear from Frannie for just a moment before I introduce you to the rest of the poets.
We'll take you back to the year 2006, Boston, Massachusetts, NAAFA convention. And I'm giving a workshop on writing ourselves as fat poets. And people seem to be interested. We do lots of exercises and we write poems. And then at the end, Mary Ray Worley has the idea of taking down our names, addresses, emails, etc., and saying to us, "You are now the Fat Poets Society." And that's how the Fat Poets Society got started. And for those of you who may or may not know, Mary Ray Worley was very much of a fat liberation activist, and she worked with NAAFA too. What happened is that we started being in touch with each other. We were exploring a venue by which to meet. And at the time, we found Yahoo Meet. And that's where we were meeting for a while. Then the meetings got more diffuse for a number of reasons, but we kept writing. And we mostly kept in touch as well. And we shared poems, and I was wowed by what I was reading. Hence, the inspiration for the first book of Fat Poets Speak, Voices of the Fat Poets Society.
So when we get to our readings, we're also going to hear from Frannie the first poem in that collection. But before we get there, I'm going to introduce you to 4 of the poets who were part of the society and who are part of those anthologies. And we are going to start with Leslie Owen. Leslie, I lost my bios. Sorry.
I need no introduction. No, I'm just kidding.
You need no introduction. I have one, though. Here it is.
Okay, cool.
Leslie began writing novel-length romances in junior high. She continued scribbling wild tales on her college-ruled notepads till those pesky college and career things got in the way. Finally, after earning her PhD in sociology, Leslie gave herself permission to get a life. She has since published 4 novels, 1 short story, and several poems. Now a boring academic and a not entirely boring political activist, she spends just about all her waking hours doing one or more of the following: teaching, writing, volunteering, and tending to the whims of her feline overlords. Leslie also writes under the names Elle Hill and Holly Gray. We'll put some links in the chat for you about her publications, and you can also see them as part of her bio on naafa.org/events. Leslie, tell us more of how you became a poet, and what's your origin story?
Well, first of all, I have to say I was shocked that the origins of the Fat Poet Society went back all the way to 2006. I don't think that really sank in till right now. That was 17 years ago. That's a long time to know these amazing people. So I am so honored to see you all here today. I've missed you and I love you all. Just a brief comment. But I have been writing since I was a little wee tot, writing on my college ruled notebooks, which I mentioned, writing really angsty bad poetry, which is a rite of passage for all poets, and then moving into, I hope, slightly less bad and angsty poetry as an adult and an activist. So as an academic and an activist and a poet, I have found in writing that poetry this really, for me, empowering intersection. So that's why I'm still here, apparently 17 years later.
Isn't it remarkable how
Amazing.
time goes? Thank you, Leslie. So before I introduce you to our next poet, I realized that I did not introduce you all to our fabulous friends at Pro Bono ASL. Today, we have Frannie Ray with us, and later in the webinar, we will see Neil. Pro Bono ASL supports us in all of our virtual events, and your contributions also go to helping us support them by compensating for them for their time. They do incredible pro bono work in community for things like political protests and funerals and things like that. But for their work with NAAFA, we do compensate them, and we thank you for helping us in doing that because accessibility is essential. Thank you, Pro Bono ASL. Next, I'd like to introduce you all to Eileen Rosensteel. Eileen is a bodacious disabled artist devoted to being present. She writes as part of the Fat Poets Society. She has a one-woman show recreating the historical stories of the circus fat ladies. She is writing a memoir about her body journey to becoming a body love advocate. Her work has been performed and published in several anthologies, including the Fat Poets Society 2, Madison Magazine, and the Wee Moon Calendar. Eileen, tell us your origin story.
Thanks for the introduction. My villainous origin story was a fat little girl who had lots and lots of books and a big imagination. I've been writing poetry, and I will claim that I am still writing angsty, dramatic, over-the-top poetry. And I will probably be doing that for the rest of my life. And the words are so important to me. Connecting the physical world to the words is what drives me in my poetry. And I am super excited to see y'all.
We're really glad that you can be here with us today. There's a question in the chat about whether or not your performances are linked online somewhere. So if they are, please do drop that in the chat for folks. And if not, let's maybe talk afterwards about what we could do about that. So next I will introduce you. Thank you, Eileen. Next, I will introduce you all to Kat Barron. Kat's passion is doing what she can to create safe space for people, particularly women, both in their own minds and in society in general. She leads a monthly meetup called the Self-Love Journey for a group called Awkwardly Zen. She has several guided meditations on her website, holdyourselfsacred.com, leading people into more self-love, body gratitude, embodiment, and empowerment. Kat works as a permissionary, offering her nurturing and support for women to explore, discover, and be their full authentic selves, living their deepest dreams and desires. Kat is a nudist who has found nudism to be the most healing tool for her relationship with her body and is happy to guide women through their first nudist experiences. A massage therapist and energy healer for over 25 years, Kat's life has been dedicated to helping women feel good and in and about their bodies and lives. We'll put Kat's links in the chat for those of you who are with us live, and everyone else can see them in the show notes or on our events page at NAAFA.org. Kat, what is your origin story as a poet?
It's really nice having you read my bio. I love your voice. I have always written. It's how I've always coped with my feelings and when perceived injustices. Like when I was in high school, I posted 2 poems on the teacher's staff room lounge door, objecting to how hypocritical they were. So it's always been sort of a form of activism for me to express my feelings and to create space in my life, to say it's okay to feel this way or it's okay to be this way. And so and it's arguable that my writing isn't exactly poetry. It's just free, like free words. And that also, I believe, creates space for people to make their writing whatever it is, their poetry, whatever it is. So that's mine.
I feel sometimes that it's arguable that all writing is poetry and that all poetry is not really poetry. So I never know where to put things. For those in our audience who don't know, I think I shared this with the poets behind the scene, but I used to run a spoken word event for youth in Oakland, California as part of an Upward Bound program. So I spent a lot of years teaching poetry and talking about what poetry is and isn't. And we mostly landed on it is what you say it is, you're the poet, right? Thank you, Kat, for telling us what it means to you. And finally, we are going to hear from Karina Macrease. And Karina is convinced that Skynet has already taken over the world and the computers are already in charge. But more about Karina. She is a contributing writer for several publications specializing in cybersecurity and ransomware. She's particularly interested in the future of girls in STEM, and again, suspects that Skynet is already running the show around here. Karina self-medicates her anxiety by killing monsters with magic on Xbox and PC. You can find her on Twitter at Karina Macrease. We'll put that link in the chat. Karina, tell us about your poetry beginnings.
Hello, everybody. So it is wonderful having someone else read your bio, isn't it? That's kind of exciting. I feel famous. So I do currently write about cybersecurity and tech because that's what pays the bills. And fiction does not, but that is not why we write fiction. I am primarily a short story writer. I love Flash, and I'm really constantly working on screenplays that may never be read or ever produced. But again, that's a whole other writing workshop about how hard it is to get your work produced. It really is who you know. And my experience at NAAFA was extraordinary. It blew my mind, and met so many bold, brave people who taught me to love myself. And that writing workshop with Frannie was extraordinary, to be in a room full of people all writing now we all have different ideas about what poetry is, but I'd never, being a fiction writer, I loved reading poetry. as much as I loved reading Dorothy Parker. And beyond that, I didn't really know much about poetry. I learned so much from Frannie about meter and timing and rhythm and the the all the different forms of poetry. And it led me to new creative ways to write fiction. And it has stayed with me forever. Thank you so much, Frannie. And thank you, Peggy, for taking us on and putting that first book together. How incredible that this even exists. It's so great to see you all.
Karina, will you tell folks who don't know who Peggy is?
Oh, Peggy Elam is our publisher, and she made the Fat Poets Society books possible. There's none of this. I mean, yeah, people write. Everywhere you go, you can find writers. Writers are a dime a dozen. A publisher who's willing to put that. There you go. It's Pearl Song Press. Thank you, my good friend Leslie, because I thought if I just keep talking, Pearl Song would come to me. It didn't. So we really do owe all of this to Pearl Song Press and Peggy. None of us would be talking about books being published, having my poetry in anthology. What? It's unbelievable. What a gift.
And for folks who haven't noticed this yet, Peggy is here with us as a guest. So if you want to say hello to her in the chat or share any gratitude for her, Pearl Song has published numerous fat positive books during its existence. You should go to their website and check out you can get the 3 Fat Poet Society anthologies. And you can also see all of these other really, really wonderful books from Fat community that were published by Peggy. So Peggy, we all owe you a debt of gratitude. And I encourage those of you who are watching or here with us today to take a look and learn more about Pearl Song. Thanks, everyone. So let's just before we get into reading, let's spend a couple more minutes talking about the impact that the Fat Poet Society itself has had on you. Some of you touched on this a little bit in your origin stories or just talking about yourself as writers, but are there other thoughts that you all would like to share about what it meant to be part of this fat specific space as a writer, and where you see it show up in the 17 years since in your life? And you can
I'm not muted, so I'll go first. Hi, Kat. Sorry, I jumped in front. I just wanted to say that I'm quite certain that outside of NAAFA, I can tell you, I've never been in a safe space for fat people to just effing exist. The fact that it's okay for me to be in this body, and not one person told me that I should go on a diet for a whole weekend. Not one person made comments to me about, maybe you should do something. Not one. And to just be a person who's appreciated for my mind and my laughter and my contribution to a community is a life-changing experience.
Thank you, Karina. Kat, I think you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I was going to say that it was just such a supportive and continues to be such a supportive atmosphere. Even though we don't write regularly and exchange regularly, we love each other deeply. And I know that if I ever needed to, I could reach out to any one of these women and find support. And they're also how I found my voice, how I really got my voice, because sharing with them and getting their feedback and getting their support and having them uplift, we all uplifted each other and held each other like in this container. And I think everybody needs stuff like that, needs places where you're safe and where you're loved and where you can express yourself and all of yourself, not hold back, not hide, and where people will get you. So yeah, it's been an extraordinary group of women to know.
Leslie, do you have any thoughts on how it's impacted you besides the fresh discovery that it's really been 17 years?
Actually, I really, really do. I was thinking about the community that came with that group that started in 2006 that Karina was talking about, the amazing community that forms at NAAFA conventions or NAAFA get-togethers. And we took some of that with us. And as Frannie talked about in the recording, we created a group. We had a Yahoo listserv, and it wasn't a lot of folks. It was just maybe, I don't know, maybe a dozen of us who would talk all the time. We would receive prompts from Frannie, who has always been our fearless leader, and we would write and we would ask each other questions, and we would submit our works to each other and receive critiques and mostly celebration. And we would talk about what it means to be fat and to be writers and to be fat writers. It was this amazing pocket of creativity and solidarity and affection and community. So yeah, it was life-changing for real. And my thanks to everyone.
Thank you, Leslie. What about you, Eileen?
I'd like to talk about another aspect of it. Is these wonderful women have talked about us coming together and building a community. I'm going to talk about the other aspect of that as spreading dandelion seeds. So I've had poetry published all over online. It's been performed on stage, not only by me, which is just mind-blowing, but other artists have used it in their art. And you see little seeds drop into other people. So the conversations that I have after a performance or after something gets published, I get little messages that are just recognition of our connections. And so somebody that has never thought of their fat body as an activist voice will come up and say, I never thought of that way, or I had that exact same experience, but I couldn't find the words. And it allows this wonderful heart conversation, and where we can see besides each other's armor. That's poetry is that path for me that is just so amazing. That's what the impact of Fat Poets Society for me is.
Thanks, Eileen. Thanks, everyone, for sharing your thoughts about what this has all meant to you. We want to now give everybody a taste of what was produced by the Fat Poet Society. And before we have the poets who are with us live share some of their work, I'm going to share a little bit with you from Frannie's work. And Frannie is going to read the first poem from the first anthology. And just so you know a little bit more about Frannie, Frannie thinks of fat acceptance and liberation as one of the key social justice issues of our time. Are fat people, especially but not only women of color, fat women of color, to be derogatorily judged by people whose view of inclusivity rests on whether one conforms to standards of appearance that found expression during the late Victorian era, and then again from the mid-1900s to today? Are we always to shake in our shoes when a doctor, especially but not only a white privileged doctor, orders us to step on a scale or on an examining table? This is the core of the unequal social relationship Frannie has been fighting since she started to write about fat acceptance and liberation, and write fat liberation poetry more than 25 years ago. Frannie was the teacher, as she said earlier, at the workshop on writing fat poetry at the NAAFA convention in 2006. And once again, shout out to Mary Ray Worley for helping form the Fat Poet Society after that workshop. And Frannie says, wherever they have gone, whatever they have written, they continue to write their fat selves into poetry that opens up the door to their fat proud selves. Here is Frannie's poem. Where'd my poems go?
The poem is entitled I Sing the Fat Self. It is the very first poem of the volume 1 of Fat Poets Speak, Voices of the Fat Poets Society. I sing the fat self to the memory of Walt Whitman. I sing the fat self that flourishes, acquires girth, births and blooms its stomach and thighs and limbs, soft but sturdy as it flows among people and things it knows and greets. I sing the self that bounces, plump and easy and free, not tightened or wired or cut like meat into the correct sizes for freezing and eating. I sing the self that hugs and is hugged, is cuddled in all places, sleeps and slips sweetly against its loving partners, limbed by colors fine and bright, limbed in lace and silk and cotton to flower its curves and cleavage and comeliness. I sing the fat self that thumps with a great triumphant splash into creeks, rivers, lakes, and oceans, spraying eddies and currents and waves as the water sloshes over its luscious wealth of skin and muscle and heft. I sing the self that rends the air as it spills up to balance a serve, aims clear, smacks, spikes, and volleys, and digs the ground, its strong fat haunches planted sleek and fast as it passes the players, then bounds up and anchors the net. I sing the self that runs newly dried turf, fit, fat, and swinging from base to base after batting over heads and hands and heaps of scrambling fans. I sing the fat self that sows, rends, reaps, harvests, mulling each seed and petal and plant it worked into the earth, wetted and mulched and mowed into wide, waiting warmth. I sing the self that once molded, still molds clay into loving fat women with plentiful breasts and hips and thighs and furred organs of pleasure. I sing the fat self that wells into city streets, its arms akimbo with briefcase and cell phone and printouts of stately, thick buildings yet to be born. I sing the self that struts high on scaffolds after welding metal and glass into windows and rafters and beams and partitions, its muscled arms and strong succulent chest pointing to where the next fire will take wood and make of it a tower. I sing the fat self that feeds its lovely fat children and their friends, that hugs its plump grandmother with her soft cheeks and gently knowing hands. I sing the self that argues for its right to stay fat and free, the self that celebrates growth, nurturing, strength, fullness, roundness. I sing the self that raises its voice for all who are spurned, hated, disliked, ostracized, ignored. I sing the fat soul.
Yes, applause is deserved and welcome. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to hear from Frannie, and thank you, Frannie, for sharing those words with us. Now we'll have some readings from the poets who are here with us live, and we will start with Leslie.
Thank you so much, Tigress. I decided to read right from the books. I don't know, I felt the physical connection would be pretty meaningful. So I'm going to read right from that. I'm going to read one poem from the first, one poem from the second. So my first poem is called No One's Gaia. Mother goddess rounds the earth, spinning like some bloodied top, faster and faster, melting away the world's miseries and the fires of martyrdom. Mother goddess, sister, lover, Fat, fecund body flowing forth, filling the cracks like a thumb in a leaky dike. Sister, mother, wife, victim, two halves clinging together, pinched at the bottom into the pulsing shape of a heart. I am no one's Earth Mother. No one's good little girl, Joan of Arc, obedient house servant, anthropological Venus. My fat, strong, childless body, tall enough to eclipse the sun, wide enough to crowd an entire world, is not available for purchase, not open for business, not underdeveloped, not ready for construction, not wet, fresh soil, yearning for the farmer's plow. My arms strong enough to snap a stake, to smother a fire, snap against my body like thunder, shaking to dust those small framed homes built on sand and gossip. My tree trunk thighs will never shelter the masses, can never split far enough, fast enough to satisfy all the toothy, screaming mouths, the sharp metallic bodies, the wet, wagging tongues, the voracious, vampiric appetites. I am no one's proxy mother, no Oedipal drama waiting to inspire a Greek chorus. No humans may enter the earthy forest between my legs where trees groan and grasses sigh their desires. I offer no one a warm, comfortable teat as pillow for the head, pacifier for the mouth, nourishment for the belly. My open mouth gleams like a mirror, reflecting the heat that radiates like fire from my strong, fat body. My torso waxes and wanes, a dusty moon refusing to enlighten the masses. Thank you, friends. My second from the Fat Poet Speak 2 is called Ugly. And it's about reclaiming the right to appear and be ugly. I want to see your ugly. Wobbly, jiggly in my hand, lights beaming down, tiny stars. Oh, holy night. I like my solstice present just fine. I want to hear your secrets, speaking loud, brassy sounds. Slap my face, cheeky wench. Your soft tummy melts like butter in my mouth. I want to write a poem, uncap my tongue and let it flow. Sticky, shiny words, sparkly wit, wet, soggy rhythms. I ride your laughs like the sea. I want to taste your cocoa, cheap brown fairy dust, no swank for me. I was raised in a trailer and ate Cheese Whiz. I like the ugly, the forgotten, the overripe, the juicy, fizzy extravagance that tastes like cantaloupe. I want to drink your ugly, gulp it in and make it mine, sloshing, spilling over, burning the roof of my mouth, unbuttoned jeans. Woo woo! Is that the fire department? Because I got my siren right here. Thanks all.
Woo!
Leslie Owen, everyone. Thank you, Leslie. Next up, Eileen.
Thank you. My first poem is Projection. Stop. Excuse me, sorry. Stop showing your home movies. Mom made me eat my vegetables so I wouldn't be fat. Grandma only showed love through food and it made me fat. Sibling horror stories, lard butt bullying on my fat white ass. Stop projecting your videos. Big Mama takes care of little bad boy. Naughty little fat girl gets taught a lesson. Fat piggy squeals on my corpulent breasts. Stop broadcasting your films. I was fat until I found the one thin way. Morbid obesity, the fat that kills, the thing that ate New York City on my rotund belly. It may look like a blank screen, perfect for your own personal drama to play upon, but this is my body, and your stories don't get airtime here. If you listen, I will tell you the stories written on this flesh. And the next one is Daily Minefield. To step out of the house is to enter the field of battle. Drive by humiliation. Men in cars shouting, "Hey, Piggy, you're so fat." Manage to get on the bus, to face the machine gun glares of judgment for taking up too much room in the seat. Get to work and climb the stairs like a tank rolling up on a beach. Arrive at your desk sweating and panting to be perky and welcoming on the front line while dodging the helpful suggestions from people waiting about their miracle weight loss cure. Open your email to see the latest propaganda piece in the war on obesity. Thinking about your last checkup when your body recommended today's chemical weapon of choice, despite the scars you bear from the fen assault. Escape at the end of the day to the gym, trying to find a way to quietly relax and reduce stress. But find your gentle water aerobics class has been invaded by a drill sergeant, shouting about how many calories you're burning and take it up to double time. Finally, home again. You decide not even to turn the TV on. There's no way you could face the firing squad of commercials tonight. And my final piece is called Veterans. These are all in the second book. And as I was looking for things to read this time, I love this poem and I would write it differently now. So even when you have something published, you can find the ways that you would want to change it. For me, this poem needs to have more inclusive language. As my body has changed, I've realized that even my internal prejudice are shown in what I've printed in past. I think there is value in this poem, so that's why I'm sharing it today, though. Veterans. Someday we will march. We, the veterans of the war on obesity. Multitudes mutilated by scalpels, damaged by pharmaceuticals. We will stand up, demand a ceasefire. One day we will march. We, the survivors of the war on obesity, with our eating disorders, disfigured bodies, damaged hearts, minds, and spirits, we will heal, teach them a better way. Someday we will march, the survivors of the war on obesity, with the children taken from our too fat arms, humiliated by those who should be protecting us, taught to hate ourselves. We will take our place, claiming our humanity. One day we will march, the veterans of the war on obesity, rejecting the hatred, fear, and prejudice in a world that doesn't fit us doesn't want us, we will cry enough, demand respect. One day we will march. Today we will survive. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen, and thank you for sharing those reflections on what it means when we have changed as a person and an artist, and we have work out there in the world from someone who is not exactly who we are anymore. Thank you for sharing those reflections. Eileen Rosensteel, everyone. Next up, we have Karina.
Hello, thanks. So I'm going to read two poems that were in the first book. And the first one is, I was thinking about, our largest mother, Mother Earth, and telling the planet that she needs to lose weight. It's called Your Mother is Hungry. Respect your Mother Earth, rolling through the solar system. Millions of years I've been given birth, and I'm in need of satisfaction. I got no time for your bowing and scraping. I got a fjord ready to pop and a rainforest canopy that needs some shaping. I'm so tired I could drop. You see, someone suggested that maybe I should lose a few pounds, just to be healthy, and that maybe being round, I'll miss out on all the fashion to be found. So I try to shake to alleviate those hunger pangs that came when you ain't eaten none. And then I took a pill, and though it made me ill, I took more still. And then I tried to aerobicize. Oops, sorry about that tsunami. Today, little ones, your mother is hungry. Mother Earth is a big woman. This is my place in the universe. I am as I am made, my hips as wide as the sheltering sky. The vast expanse of the fierce Serengeti casts its shadow across my belly. Each and every bud and bloom comes from the life force of my womb. There is majesty in the massive size of my mountainous thighs. I shall consume herds of antelope, succulent barbecue, and a forest of fruit till I burst. Schools of fish I shall chew, rivers of lava quench my thirst. I am the very essence of perfection, destruction, creation, elation. Thank you. Thank you very much. And this one is called this is basically the poem that started my blog called I Celebrate My Every Curve, and is based on real life experience. This happened to me the other night. A guy in a bar wanted to fight. He looked at me as if to say that seeing me had ruined his day, that he would rather kiss a toad or lick the asphalt off the road than sit at the bar knee to knee with a girl as fat as me. He told me that I would look so pretty if only I was itty bitty. And did I not realize the fact that even though I am truly stacked, no man would ever really want me because fat girls just aren't as sexy as those other women with no hips whose flat bellies make him lick his lips. I suppose I could have made a scene, maybe kick his leg, say things mean. But then I thought instead of spite, I'd consider his personal plight. A man might feel betrayed or hurt, shocked by his own desire to flirt with a buxom, curvy beauty instead of a slender, narrow cutie. Bombarded on a daily basis with images of smooth, young faces, certain the only shape he'd feel has rock-hard abs and buns of steel, although he might long for a bride with cleavage deep and backside wide. Coping with ridicule and abuse, a single man might get the blues. Every magazine he's read tells him to get me into bed by finding some sort of common ground. And surely no woman wants to be round, so he thought he'd strike up a chat about how terrible it is to be fat. And while his pickup line was lame, I refuse to walk the path of shame. I've got no interest in diet fads. I changed the channel on workout ads. I'd rather have delicious lunches than execute 100 crunches. Country walks and chats by the fire, glasses of wine with friends who inspire. I'll never agree to do without. Being hungry makes me pout. I told him that he would be surprised by the softness of my thighs. And yes, I jiggle when I wiggle. My body shakes with every giggle. And when I sit around the house, I know you're looking down my blouse. And so even though you've got some nerve, I celebrate my every curve. Thank you. Thank you, my fat poet friends. I love you so much.
So we do have just a couple of minutes before we get into our writing exercises. If anyone has a question they want to put in the chat, you are welcome to do that.
Is Kat going to read? I'm sorry, Tigress. Is Kat going to read?
Sorry, we have one more to go. But you can queue up your questions in the chat so that if we have enough time, we can get to a couple of those questions before the end of the workshop. Thanks, everybody. And yes, Kat is going to read. That's how I meant to set that up. Sorry.
Thank you. My first poem is called Fat Bitch. Fat bitch? That's all you got? I eat fat bitch like a cookie. The crunchy sweetness satisfying all the way down, with a nice sugar buzz when it hits my bloodstream. Yeah, I'm a fat bitch, all right. I won't get out of your way. I won't change myself to make you feel better. I won't take your shit. And I most assuredly won't feel ashamed. I'm a fat bitch who holds her head high and knows who I am and is not intimidated by some small-minded bully trying to intimidate with hate and ignorance. I'm a fat bitch who eats what she likes and makes love when she wants and lives and loves out loud. I'm a fat bitch who won't shut up or get out of your way. Fat bitch? Why, thank you. I couldn't have said it better myself. I'm not here to please you. Your opinion of me is not my concern. This fat bitch is here to live my life on my terms. Fat bitch, indeed. Thank you. My next poem, my last poem, is called Safety Net. Could I create a safety net of words to shield against the bombardment of negative messages assaulting our bodies? Could words ever do that? Could I convince you of your beauty and power and strength and worthiness and inherent and inalienable value? Could I get you to stop selling yourself short, compromising yourself, trying to shrink yourself, trying to fit in, sacrificing your precious time, your power, your life, your uniqueness? Could we create a safety zone around our bodies that doesn't let the shame that society sells beat in upon us? Like this. These are the bodies we live in. These are our bodies. We don't need to change them, shrink them, or properly accessorize them. We are not here on this earth to be decorations, not here for your entertainment. We are here to live to experience, to enjoy, to feel pleasure. We are here to dance, not to measure the size of our hips. We are here to eat and to laugh, not to shrink our bellies. We are here to make love with abandon, not to hide or erase all of our so-called flaws. We've got news for you. We have no flaws, just underappreciated uniqueness. Every part of us is vibrant with life, ready to sizzle and pop with joy and bliss. We will not be disenfranchised from our bodies by the mandate to be thin, thinner. We can be in our own bodies. We can live in our own bodies. We can celebrate and take pleasure in our bodies exactly as we are. Could I possibly stand here as a talisman, finding the right words to give you the magic to believe in yourself, to be your own compass, to own your body and your life? That is my prayer every day.
Kat Barron, everyone. Thank you to all of our poets for sharing your words with us, sharing your talents with us. No one has entered any questions in the chat, so we'll go ahead and go to what I always use as the wrap-up question, which is there anything that we didn't ask you today that you wish we had asked you? And I'll have each of you answer that question, and then we'll have a couple of wrap-up announcements, and then we'll end the recording, and those who want to stay to do writing exercises with our poets can stay on the line after that. So any final thoughts? And I'll just let you unmic when you're ready. Leslie?
Thank you. I actually have been watching our interpreters relay what we are relaying via voice, taking these embodied words, this embodied poetry that is coming out through our voice, but was birthed in the body and then being performed by the body by these spectacular interpreters. And it is this amazing dance and is so beautiful. I am moved almost to tears to see these interpreters make our words so visceral and understandable and beautiful. So I just wanted to say thank you so much.
We are so lucky to be in partnership with Pro Bono ASL because they always bring this incredible energy. You know, all ASL interpreters are important for the work that they do, but there is something particularly magical about the team at Pro Bono and the way that they do their work. And we are really, really blessed to have them as part of our community at NAAFA. Thank you for highlighting that, Leslie. Anyone else have any final thoughts? Other poets? I know you may be anxious just to get to the writing. Kat?
Just a quick thought that you can see, like, when we were sharing things like this constantly, like how inspiring it is, because like listening to every one of the other poets, I was like, oh my God, it's so powerful. It's so beautiful. It's so filling. And so that was what we did for each other for a long time. Yeah.
Thank you, Kat. Eileen, do you have any final thoughts? I don't mean to put you on the spot. I saw Karina nodding when I said you might be anxious to get to the writing. So I know she's anxious to get to teaching. Eileen, do you have any final thoughts?
The thing that's in my head is get you some. Go ahead, find a partner to write with, find a group to write with. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be whatever your definition of right is. But the process of writing is affirming. So thank you for the platform and the container to share words with.
We are so happy to have you all here. Okay, so before we turn it over to Karina to lead the first writing exercise, I'm going to go ahead and give the final reminders now, and then share one last bit from Frannie. So just as always, we want to thank our interpreters today, Trani, Ray, and Neil from Pro Bono ASL. Behind the scenes at NAAFA, Darlene and Julianne, doing our administrative work and getting all these registrations out and all the things that happen behind the scenes to make these webinars happen. Yay, administrative team. And thank our NAAFA board for their support and all of our NAAFA volunteers. This past week was Volunteer Appreciation Week. NAAFA has been led and predominantly run by volunteers for almost all of its 54-year history. So we have so much gratitude for all of the people in all fat liberation organizations who are almost all volunteers for doing this super important work. And again, if you'd like to support our work, you can do that at naafa.org/give. I'm gonna one last time share some words from Frannie. And I thank you all for being with us today. Those of you who are staying for the writing workshop can stay on the line after we hear from Frannie.
You are a fat poet, and someone sneers at your art. Don't listen to them, just keep writing. Because if you show us your art, the world will listen.
Thank you, Frannie. Thank you, Mary Ann, for starting the society. And thank you to our poets today, Kat, Karina, Leslie, and Eileen. I'm Tigress Osborne. Thank you for joining us for the NAAFA Webinar Series.